The book no one can read, Voynich Manuscript. Imagine opening a book that no one in the world can read. Not linguists, not historians, not even the world's greatest codebreakers. Now imagine that this book is more than 600 years old. Its pages are filled with strange symbols written in a language that has never been identified. The words flow across the pages in neat lines, repeating patterns that almost look familiar, but no one has ever been able to understand what they mean. This is not a fictional story. The book actually exists. It is known today as the Voynich Manuscript, and for over a century, it has remained one of the greatest unsolved puzzles in the history of literature. At first glance, the manuscript looks like an ordinary medieval book. The pages are made of parchment, carefully written in ink by a skilled hand. The writing appears structured and deliberate, suggesting that whoever created it understood exactly what they were recording. But the moment you try to read it, something becomes very strange. None of the words belong to any known language. The characters do not match Latin, Greek, Arabic, or any other script used in medieval Europe. Even today, experts cannot connect the symbols to any known alphabet. Yet the text clearly follows patterns that resemble real language. Words repeat, sentences form consistent structures, certain symbols appear more frequently than others, almost as if they follow grammatical rules. It looks like a real language, but no one understands it, and the mystery doesn't stop with the writing. The pages of Voynich manuscripts are filled with strange illustrations, images that raise even more questions. Some pages show plants with roots, leaves, and flowers, but then botanists study these drawings, they discover something unsettling. Most of the plants do not exist. They resemble real plants, yet the shapes and structures seem impossible to identify in nature. Other pages contain strange diagrams that look like astronomical charts with stars, circles, and symbols arranged in mysterious patterns. There are also illustrations of unusual bathing scenes, where small human figures appear to be standing inside tubes or pools filled with liquid. The meaning of these images remains completely unclear. Every page seems to introduce a new puzzle. For more than 100 years, experts have attempted to decode this book. Linguists have studied the writing. Historians have searched for clues in medieval records. Even professional cryptographers, people trained to break secret codes, have tried to uncover the meaning hidden within its pages. Some of these experts were the same code breakers who have cracked secret military codes during the two world wars. Yet none of them succeeded. The Voynich manuscript remains unreadable. So what exactly is this book? It is an encrypted text hiding important knowledge, or a lost language from a forgotten civilization, a scientific manuscript describing plants and medicines that no longer exist? Or could it be something else entirely? A mysterious creation designed to hide its true meaning forever. For centuries, this strange book has quietly survived while its secret remained locked within its pages. And the deeper researcher looks into its history, the more mysterious the story becomes. Because before we can even begin to understand what the Voynich manuscript says, we first have to understand where it came from. The discovery of the unreadable book. Imagine walking through a quiet library late at night. The air smells like dust and old paper. Every shelf is packed with books, histories, novels, forgotten manuscripts. But somewhere in that silent room sits a book that no one in centuries had ever truly read. This isn't just a rumor. The story begins with a book that scholars have spent generations trying to understand. Voynich Manuscript. Discovered in 1912 by rare book dealer Wilfrid Voynich, The manuscript immediately baffled historians and linguists. Voynich found it hidden among the collection of ancient texts at a Jesuit college in Italy. At first glance, it looked like any other medieval book. Handwritten pages, strange illustrations, and a mysterious script flowing across the parchment. But the moment experts began examining it, they realized something was terribly wrong. The language inside the book didn't match any known alphabet. The letters looked consistent, almost like a real writing system, but they belonged to no language ever recorded in human history. For more than 100 years, cryptographers, historians, and linguists have attempted to decode it. Some of the greatest minds in codebreaking, even experts who worked during the World War II, studied the text. And yet, no one could read a single confirmed sentence. The manuscript itself appears to date back to the early 15th century. Carbon dating of the parchment suggests it was created sometime between the 1404 and 1438. That means someone carefully wrote this book over 600 years ago, filling it with hundreds of pages of symbols that still make no sense today. But the writing isn't the only mystery. The illustrations inside the book are just as strange. They're drawing of plants that don't seem to exist anywhere on Earth. Some look vaguely familiar, roots, leaves, flowers, but when botanists try to identify them, none match the known species. It's as if the artists were copying plants from another world or inventing them entirely. Then there are the diagrams. Complex circular charts that resemble astronomical maps appear throughout the pages. Some researchers believe that they represent stars or zodiac symbols. Others think that they might be something entirely different, perhaps instructions or code hidden inside images. The most puzzling drawings of all, the pages showing dozens of tiny human figures, mostly women, floating in what look like green pools connected by strange tubes and pipes. Some appear to be bathing, while others interacting with unknown mechanisms. No one knows what these scenes represent. Over the years, countless theories have emerged. Some believe that manuscript is an elaborate cipher hiding a secret message waiting to be unlocked. Others argue that it could be a lost language from a forgotten civilization. A few even claim it might be an elaborate medieval hoax. But there's a problem with that theory. Creating a fake book this complex would have required an incredible amount of time, skill, and planning, far more effort than most hoaxes of the time. Which raises an unsettling question. If this book wasn't meant to deceive, then who was it meant for? Because whoever wrote the Voynich Manuscript clearly expected someone to understand it. But after 6 centuries, humanity still can't. And in the next part of the story, the mystery becomes even deeper, because some researchers believe that the book may not be meaningless at all. In fact, it might be hiding something written in plain sight but invisible to human mind. Part 3. The code that defies every cipher. For centuries, the greatest codebreakers in the world have tried to unlock the secret of the Voynich Manuscript. At first, many experts believed the solution would be simple. The strange symbols must represent a hidden code. After all, history is full of secret messages disguised as ordinary writing. During the World War II, intelligence agencies developed incredibly complex encryption systems. Machines like the Enigma machine created codes so complicated that they required teams of mathematicians to break them. But even those codes were eventually solved. So naturally, cryptographers believed the Voynich Manuscript would eventually fall to the same methods. They were wrong. When experts began studying the manuscript closely, they noticed something unusual. The writing inside the book wasn't random. In fact, It followed patterns that similar to real human language. Certain symbols appear to be more than others. Some words repeated throughout the text, others only appeared once or twice. Even the spacing between words looks natural, as if someone had carefully written a real language. This discovery was both exciting and deeply troubling. Because if the manuscript behaved like a real language, why couldn't anyone translate it? Mathematicians ran statistical analysis on the text. Linguists compared it to hundreds of known languages. Cryptographers attempted thousands of decoding techniques. Nothing works. The words refused to reveal their meaning. Even more puzzling was the structure of the writing itself. In most languages, words can vary greatly in length, but in the Voynich Manuscript, many words follow similar patterns, almost like they were generated by the string rule system. Some researchers suggested the text might be written by using a complex cipher layered on top of another language. Others believe that the book might represent an unknown linguistic system entirely. But then another theory appeared, one that changed the way people looked at the manuscript. What if the text wasn't a cipher at all? What if it was something else entirely? Some experts began to suspect that the book might have been written using an artificial language, something created intentionally, rather than evolving naturally like Latin or English. Artificial languages are not unheard of. In fact, people have created many of them throughout history. One famous example is Esperanto, invented in the 19th century to serve as a universal language. But the Voynich Manuscript predates Esperanto by hundreds of years. If it truly represents an invented language, then whoever created it was centuries ahead of their time. And yet, even this theory leaves many questions unanswered. Because languages, real or invented, usually serve a purpose. They are created so that people can communicate with each other. But there is no evidence that anyone else ever learned the language of the Voynich Manuscript. No letters, no translations, no references in historical records. It's as if the book appeared out of nowhere. Even modern technology has failed to crack it. In recent years, researchers have used powerful computer algorithm and artificial intelligence to analyze the manuscript structure. But the results have only deepened the mystery. Some programs concluded the text resembled natural language. Others suggested it might be meaningless patterns carefully designed to look real. So which is it? A lost language, a brilliant code, or something stranger? Because in the next part of this story, we'll explore one of the most unsettling possibilities of all. What if the book was never meant for us to read in the first place? Part 4. Theories that make the mystery even stranger. By now, the mystery of the Voynich Manuscript had attracted some of the most brilliant minds in history. Linguists, historians, mathematicians, even intelligent experts had all tried to uncover its meaning. Yet after decades of study, the manuscript remained silent. And as the search for answers continued, new theories began to appear. Some were logical, others were far more unsettling. One of the earliest theories suggested the manuscript was actually a medieval medical or herbal guide. The strange plants drawing seemed to support this idea. Many pages showed detailed illustration of roots, leaves, and flowers, as if someone was documenting different species. But there was one problem. Botanists couldn't identify most of the plants. Some looked partially familiar, like they were a combination of some known species, but none matches real plants exactly. It was as if the artists had merged different plans together to create something entirely new. If this were her book guide, why include plans that don't exist? Then there were the astronomical diagrams. Several pages in the manuscript contain circular charts that resemble zodiac symbols. Researchers noticed similarities to medieval astrology texts. Some even pointed out that the zodiac illustrations looked similar to those used in European manuscripts from the 1400s. But once again, the details didn't quite match. The symbols seemed slightly altered. The arrangement of the diagrams were unusual, and some sections appeared to describe processes or cycles that historians still struggle to interpret. This led some researchers to believe the manuscript might be a form of coded scientific knowledge, perhaps written to hide information from those who weren't meant to understand it. In the Middle Ages, this wasn't unheard of. Scholars and alchemists often hid their work behind secret symbols and coded writing. One name frequently appeared in this discussion: Roger Bacon. Bacon was a 13th century English philosopher and scientist known for his interest in alchemy, optics, and secret knowledge. For many years, some historians believe he might have been the author of the mysterious manuscript, but modern research has largely dismissed that idea. Carbon dating shows the parchment was created nearly 2 centuries after Bacon's lifetime. Still, the connection to alchemy remained intriguing. Alchemy wasn't just about turning metal into gold. Many alchemists believed that they were unlocking hidden truths about the universe, knowledge that could be dangerous in the wrong hands. So they disguised their writings in strange symbols, obscure diagrams, and coded language. Some researchers think the Voynich Manuscript might follow this tradition, but there's another theory that is even more controversial. What if the book is actually a hoax? A few historians have suggested that someone in the 15th century may have created the manuscript simply to deceive wealthy collectors. Rare and mysterious books were extremely valuable at the time. If someone produced a manuscript filled with strange writing and exotic drawings, they might have been able to sell it for a fortune. But here's the problem with that idea. Creating the Voynich Manuscript would have required an enormous amount of effort. The book contained over 200 pages of carefully written symbols. The handwriting remains consistent throughout the manuscript, suggesting it was written by a skilled and patient author. A hoax of that scale would have taken months, possibly years to produce. And for what? There is no record showing the creator profited from it, which brings us to one final unsettling possibility. What if the manuscript was written in a language that once existed, but has been completely lost to history? A language spoken by a small group of people, preserved only within pages of this strange book. If that's true, then Voynich Manuscript may not be unreadable because it's a code. It might be unreadable because of the world understand it has disappeared. And in the next part of the story, we'll explore how modern technology and even artificial intelligence have tried to solve a mystery that has remained unsolved for more than 600 years. Part 5. When computers tried to solve the impossible. For centuries, the mystery of the Voynich Manuscript remained locked behind the limits of human analysis. Scholars studied it by hand, linguists compared symbols to ancient alphabets, cryptographers searched for hidden patterns. But in the 21st century, something new entered the investigation: computers. Researchers believe that the powerful algorithm and artificial intelligence might finally succeed where human minds had failed. After all, computers can analyze massive amounts of data, detect patterns invisible to people, and test thousands of possibilities in seconds. If the Voynich Manuscript contained a hidden language or code, computer might be able to uncover it. One of the first breakthroughs came when the researcher digitized the entire manuscript. Every symbol, every word, every page was carefully recorded and converted into searchable data. Once the text existed in digital form, scientists would begin running statistical analysis, and the results were surprising. The pattern inside the manuscript looked remarkably similar to real human languages. Word frequencies follow something called Zipf's law, a statistical pattern that appears in nearly all natural languages. In simple terms, this means that a small number of words appear very frequently, while many others appear only rarely. The Voynich text followed this pattern almost perfectly. That suggested something very important. The writing probably wasn't random. If someone had simply invented meaningless symbols, the text would not have behaved like a natural language. Yet the manuscript structure looked exactly like genuine linguistic communication. But just as researchers grew hopeful, another mystery appeared. Despite behaving like language, the manuscript still couldn't be translated. Machine learning programs tried to comparing the text to dozens of ancient languages, Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Arabic, and many others. Some studies even suggest that the text might share distant similarities with Asian languages. But every claim eventually fell apart. In 2018, a group of researchers announced that they have finally solved a mystery. Using artificial intelligence, they argued the manuscript had been written in a compressed form of medieval Hebrew. For a brief moment, the world believed the mystery might finally be over. But other linguists quickly examined the results and found serious problems. The proposed translations didn't make grammatical sense. Many words were forced into meanings that didn't fit the context. The solution collapsed under scrutiny, and the Voynich manuscript remained undeciphered. Another strange discovery came from analyzing the way words change throughout the book. In normal languages, words evolve naturally within sentences, but in Voynich text, many words appear to be slight variations of each other, as if the author was modifying them according to a hidden rule. Some researchers suggest that this might indicate a generative system, a method where words are produced by altering previous ones. In other words, the author may have been following a secret formula to generate the text. If that's true, then decoding the manuscript may require discovering the rule behind its construction, not just translating symbols. Even today, the manuscript continues to fascinate scientists, linguists, and codebreakers around the world. Universities, cryptography communities, and independent researchers still attempt to unlock its secrets. And yet, after more than 600 years, the strange symbols inside Voynich manuscript continue to resist every attempt to understand them. But in the next part of the story, we'll explore one of the most unsettling questions of all. What if the reason we can't read the book is because it was never meant to be understood? Part 6. A message that may never be understood. After centuries of investigation, the mystery of the Voynich manuscript remains one of the greatest unsolved puzzles in history. Scholars have examined every page, every symbol, and every illustration. Advanced computers have analyzed its patterns. Experts from multiple fields have offered theories. And yet, the book still refuses to give up its meaning. At this point, some researchers have begun asking a different question. Instead of asking how to read the manuscript, they ask something more unsettling. What if the manuscript cannot be read at all? One possibility is that the book may represent a system of knowledge, that no longer exists. Languages disappear throughout history all the time. Entire civilizations vanish, taking their words and meanings with them. Without other texts or speakers to compare against, decoding a lost language becomes almost impossible. If the author of the manuscript belonged to a small or secretive group, their language could have died out long ago. That would leave the book as the only surviving record of that language, an isolated island of writing with no bridge connecting it to the rest of the human knowledge. But there's another theory that takes the mystery even further. Some researchers believe the manuscript may have been intentionally designed to be unreadable. In medieval Europe, knowledge could be dangerous. Certain scientific or philosophical ideas were considered forbidden. Scholars sometimes hid their discoveries using complex symbols and coded language to prevent others from understanding their work. If the author of the Voynich Manuscript feared persecution, they might have created extremely complex encryption system, one so elaborate that only a small group of people could ever decode it. Over time, that group may have disappeared, and with them, the key to the code. Another strange possibility is that the manuscript might represent something more experimental, a kind of intellectual puzzle created by its author. The writer may have been exploring patterns, symbols, and language structures simply to see if they could construct something that looked like a real language. If that's true, the book might not contain a hidden message at all. Instead, it could be an elaborate linguistic illusion, something that feels meaningful, even though its true purpose remains unknown. But there is one detail that continues to puzzle experts. The manuscript is incredibly consistent. The handwriting remains steady across hundreds of pages. The symbols follow clear structural rules. Even the illustrations seem carefully organized into thematic sections, plants, astronomy, bathing scenes, and mysterious diagrams. This level of organization suggests that the author had a clear purpose. They weren't just randomly writing symbols. They were creating something deliberate, something structured, and something meant to last. And somehow, despite 6 centuries of study, the meaning behind those symbols remained hidden. Today, the manuscript is preserved in the rare book collection of Yale University, where scholars and researchers continue to study its pages. Anyone can view digital scans online, and thousands of amateur codebreakers around the world still attempt to solve the puzzle. But every attempt leads back to the same unanswered question. Who wrote the Voynich Manuscript? And more importantly, why? Because in the final part of this story, we'll confront the most intriguing mystery of all, the possibility that the book's true purpose was never meant to be revealed. Part 7. The mystery that still has no ending. After more than 6 centuries, the strange pages of Voynich Manuscript remain silent. Hundreds of experts have tried to solve it. Linguists study its structures. Cryptographers search for hidden codes. Historians examine its illustrations and trace its possible origins. Even modern computers and artificial intelligence have analyzed the manuscript again and again. And yet, the book still cannot be read. Today, the manuscript rests safely in the rare book collection at Yale University. Anyone can view digital copies of its pages online. People around the world, from professional researchers to curious amateurs, continue to examine the strange symbols, hoping they might be the one to finally uncover its meaning. But every attempt seems to end the same way. more questions. Some researchers believe the manuscripts truly contains a lost language, something once understood by a small group of people whose knowledge vanished with time. If that's true, the book might be the final surviving trace of a forgotten culture. Others argue that the manuscript hides a sophisticated cipher, a code so carefully designed that even modern cryptography hasn't been able to unlock it yet. If a key ever existed, it may have been lost centuries ago. And then there are those who believe the truth might be simpler and stranger. What if the book was never meant to be decoded? What if the author created it as a puzzle with no solution, an intellectual challenge to design, to confuse and fascinate anyone who encountered it? If that was the case, the writer succeeded beyond imagination. Because more than 600 years later, people are still trying to solve it, still searching for meaning in its looping symbols and strange illustrations, still wondering what secret might be hidden inside its pages. But perhaps the most fascinating part of this mystery is the person behind it. Somewhere in the early 1400s, someone sat down with parchment, ink, and an idea. Page by page, they filled an entire book with symbols that looked like language, but refused to reveal their meaning. They drew strange plants no botanist can identify. They sketched mysterious diagrams of stars and circles. They illustrated unusual scenes of figures moving through unfamiliar system of pipes and pools. And then they finished the manuscript and disappeared into history. No diary explaining their work, no key to the strange alphabet, no record telling us what the book was meant to say. Just a silent manuscript waiting to be understood. Maybe one day a breakthrough will come, a forgotten clue could appear, a new technology might uncover patterns that no one has seen before. Perhaps someday someone will finally read the first true sentence written in the Voynich Manuscript. Or maybe the mystery will remain forever, a reminder that even in a world filled with knowledge, there are still secrets we cannot solve. So the real question is just what the book says. The real question is this: if you were the one holding that strange manuscript in your hands, staring at its pages filled with unreadable symbols, what would you believe? Is it a lost language, a hidden code, a brilliant hoax, or something else entirely? The answer might still be out there, waiting for someone to discover it. Part 8. An Open Mystery. Even now, the strange symbols inside Voynich Manuscript continue to challenge everyone who studies them. Historians, mathematicians, linguists, and curious readers who have stared at the same pages, hoping that somehow the meaning will suddenly become clear. But the truth is, it never quite does. Every few years, someone announces a new theory. A researcher claims to have decoded a few words. A computer model suggests the writing resembles a forgotten dialect. Another expert argues that the book must be an elaborate cipher waiting for the right key. For a brief moment, it always feels like the mystery might finally be solved, and then the theory falls apart. The words don't quite translate, the grammar doesn't make sense, the pattern failed to match real language, and once again, the manuscript returns to silence. Today, the book is preserved in Yale University, where scholars carefully protect its fragile pages. High-resolution scans allow people all over the world to explore it for themselves. Anyone can zoom in on the strange characters, trace the delicate word drawings, and attempt to understand what the author might have been trying to communicate. But perhaps the most fascinating part of this story is that the mystery belongs to everyone now. Unlike many ancient texts that were eventually translated, the Voynich Manuscript still leaves room for imagination. It invites people to create their own theories and possibilities. Maybe it truly contains a lost language. Maybe it hides scientific knowledge centuries ahead of its time. Maybe it was created by a brilliant thinker who wanted to preserve secret ideas without revealing them openly. Or maybe the book was simply meant to inspire curiosity, an intellectual puzzle designed to survive long after its creator was gone. Some people even wonder whether the manuscript could represent a way of thinking we simply haven't discovered yet. A different system of knowledge, one that doesn't follow the rules of language we understand today. If that's true, then perhaps the problem isn't the book. Perhaps the problem is that we're still asking the wrong questions. Because somewhere in the early 1400s, an unknown author carefully wrote every symbol, drew every string plant, and filled hundreds of pages with mysterious patterns. They must have known that anyone who saw the manuscripts would immediately realize how unusual it was. And yet they left no instructions, no explanation, no hint about how the text should be read. Just the book. A book that looks like it should be understood, but isn't. And maybe that's what makes the mystery so powerful. Because even today, more than 600 years later, people are still opening its pages and wondering the same thing. If you were the one studying the Voynich manuscript late at night, tracing those strange symbols line by line, what would you think the book is trying to tell us? Is it a message waiting to be decoded? A secret that time has erased? Or a puzzle that was never meant to be solved at all? The answer may still be hidden somewhere inside those pages. Or perhaps the real mystery is why we continue searching for it.